All right. Appreciate y'all for being here today. This is the first part of our real estate series. So we have Khalid Green here today from Green Realty, who is going to lead us on a series of workshops all aimed at giving us the skills and tools needed to start the process of acquiring homes, wealth, all of that. We'll get into it. So I want to thank y'all for being here. And this is being recorded just to let everybody know again. But without further ado, Khalid, I'm going to pass things over for you to get started.
All right, great. Thanks for the introduction, Pat. When Pat came to me about the series, I was, more than happy to do it because this aligns two passions of mine, which is real estate and also giving back and helping others. That's a big passion for me. So I just want you guys to know that this is a free and open space. Like, feel comfortable to ask any question that's on your mind. Some people say that. There's no such thing as a dumb question, in my opinion. Some questions can be dumb, but it's about who you ask that question to. Because there are people that are open to not dumb, but more of like, hey, it'll take your time to get to that point of understanding knowledge about a particular area, but don't shy away. I'm the type of person where you can ask a question at the beginning of this presentation and ask it again later. I don't mind answering it twice. I want to make sure that you understand the content, how to apply it, and that's what most important to me. So I'm very patient. Do not be shy. Ask away as we go through this. So Pat came to me, informed me that students have an interest of owning their own property, and he also wanted me to kind of plant the seed about real estate investing as well. So all of our presentations will be focused from the standpoint of an individual like yourself wanting to buy their own home, their first home, right? But in each of those presentations, I want to have that little tidbit there where it's like, hey, this is how I look at it from a real estate investor perspective. So just want to keep that in mind as we go through, but I'm going to transition on to the next slide. All right, so there's a series of presentations that I'll be doing, a series of workshops. These are the dates and the topics here. Some of that might be edited over time as me and Pat communicate. So I kind of want to let you guys know about that. I just want to mute everything in my background here. So there's going to be it's a process. It's a process. It's not just the type of scenario where we can just sit in on 1 hour session and just get it all done. Now there's literally like pieces to the puzzle as you go on. I'm even open to showing you guys some like real live documentation of like things that I've signed when I was closing on properties, telling you the value and the numbers of everything. I don't mind being that open because in order for you to learn and understand, you have to see those real life examples. So these are the series. We're going to start by today by understanding your goals and budget. That's very crucial in order for you to get on the path of home ownership, building and maintaining credit. A bank will not lend to you unless you are in a position where you have a credit limit that meets their requirements. Another topic is qualifying for mortgage types and basically searching for a home. So we'll kind of get into some of that information. Last but not least, inspection. Uh, when you find yourself putting in an offer for a home, and if it's accepted by the seller, what then happens is there's about like a 30 or 45-day period before that home actually becomes yours. So it's due diligence you have to do in that period. So an inspection is one of them. Someone comes out, check out the property, make sure everything's okay. And then there's closing day, kind of what you need to do between the time of getting that application accepted, your offer accepted, up into the actual closing day, just being mindful of certain things. And and I think on 421 we have that. That's going to be like I'm gonna run through those topics, but I want to have a nice open session of questions so you guys can just pound me with the questions as much as you want. So there'll be an opportunity to ask throughout in general, but I want to leave some time in that last session to kind of bring you guys all together and just say, hey, this is what we learned. This is where I may have a knowledge gap or whatever it may be. Next thing I'm gonna do is just provide you guys a little intro about me. I'm a family man, been married to my wife for about 4 years now or so. Uh, I shouldn't say that with uncertainty around her, she'll probably go crazy. But
You got that.
about 4 years, uh, coming up on 5. And we have a beautiful baby girl, and she's the joy of our lives for sure. Like I can't explain that enough. I was born and raised in Philadelphia. Still live in Philadelphia. I love it here. I don't see myself going anywhere or not too far from here. Let me see what else we got here. Excuse me, sorry about that, guys. No corona. Um, the next one is community service. That's something that's near and dear to me. I love giving back, and that just stems from like my upbringing. I didn't grow up with a lot of resources around me. Um, I basically was like, hung out with the guys around the neighborhood. Not the perfect upbringing, but all in all, I still had love and support around me. And throughout that time, I noticed that I lack resources. So when I got to the point where I've acquired knowledge and accomplished things in my life, I found it to be very important that I give back to others and share the knowledge I've acquired. So community service is a passion of mine. I'm a graduate of Westchester University. I majored in accounting while I was there. And after Westchester, I went on still working in corporate America, but became a certified public accountant. And I still work in, like I said, in the corporate America space. So and the last thing on that list is real estate investor. This is a passion of mine that's 3 years old. But I always had an interest in it, but it was just within the last 3 years, I started digging really deep into that space. So I'm gonna pause there, give you guys a little bit about me. Just wanted to see if you guys had any questions about anything on that list there before I move on.
I got a quick question. I want you to speak to still working in a corporate America as while being a real estate investor, because I know a lot of people think that once you get into real estate, you can pretty much quit doing everything else and just solely focus on that. So if you wouldn't mind like speaking to that for me.
All right, yeah, man, that's a good point. So this is kind of something I struggle with a bit. I think, all right, so I'll tell you where the struggle is for me, but I'll tell you the most important thing. If you start investing, don't think that you can just automatically quit your job. You got to get your footing in place. You got to understand the game. You got to have the right resources around you, and you have to be able to generate revenue or income in order to, you know, take care of your needs and also to keep your business operating and functioning. So, even though I said this has been a passion of mine for 3 years, I took my first year of studying, like from the standpoint of I joined a real estate group. Um, I spent time on YouTube University. I set up an Instagram account for myself that's solely related to real estate, to where I get on there. I'm not looking at different content from different people. It's all you'll see is like investors, contractors, and other, like, and people in that space, so that I can learn from them. Like I solely use my Instagram for that. So I took that year, and then I also was going into properties, assessing like what type of profits can come from it. Should I put in a bid or whatever it may be? So it was a year of putting in that work. I don't want you guys to think that it was like analysis paralysis, but it was more finding a deal that made sense. It took time, but I found what I needed to, got in there, and just really got busy. So I think in the midst of all of that, I was still working and still executing through my day job. It's just like I said, you got to make sure everything is in place before you can outright leave your day job. I know investors that are crushing it right now, and they still working their full-time job. And part of that reason is like it eliminates any uncertainty or that they could face within their business. Say, for example, things slow down. Well, guess what? They still have income from their properties and also their job to meet all their needs and more. And I know people who just gave it up and just left their full-time gig and did real estate investing full-time. So it's more of figuring out what's right for you. Like that's the crucial component of it all. So get the resources, and then as time goes along, you assess more and more if you can make that jump. That's long-winded, but I got to break it down like that. I don't want to leave nothing, no details out for you.
No, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. It was a good answer. Thank you.
No problem. Anyone else before we jump on? I'm going to continue on. All right, cool. So The question I want to ask, I mean, we shared a little bit about myself, but the thing I want to know about you guys is what made you want to attend the workshop? Like, do you want to purchase your own home? Do you find yourself investing one day, or just here just to learn? So, anyone is interested in volunteer, uh, feel free.
I could go. So my name is Justice. So I do plan on doing real estate as become a real estate investor, and particularly, I do want to have like I want to do business consulting, but I want to have like a diverse investment in terms of like real estate and stocks and so forth. So right now I'm like working at this investment management company where I'm learning more about stocks and how to invest and so forth. And I'm actually having a meeting with them today of like investing in like I already have a Roth IRA, but I'm trying to invest more, kind of diversify my portfolio and stuff like that. So I'm getting more into that. And then, but real estate is really what I'm trying to get into as well. On top of like trying to find that work dynamic for being a consultant in business and also doing real estate as well. So what I decided to do is get a group of 5 other people, so 6 of us total, and really trying to figure out how can we navigate all of our goals in terms of getting this real estate business together. So I want to basically get some clarity of what that would look like. And I have some questions already because I met with a bunch of people in this past
Gotcha.
week about like, what would that process look like? How should we get our articles of incorporation together? And I sent out I met with a mortgage underwriter 2 days ago. I'm trying to get a better understanding of what should my route be in terms of if should it be a conventional loan or FHA loan if it's gonna be a personal.
Yeah.
Should we have an LLC or a corporation, or how should we get that framework together based
Yeah.
off of the goals that we're all trying to achieve? Because I'm really trying to have real estate investing be more passive, and then have a landlord manage my properties while I'm still focusing more on my primary goal of business consulting.
That's great. That's a great approach there. I like that. And I think we're going to have some time to dig into some of those questions, and some of them will be covered later, but let's see what we can dig into today. When you look at that list, figure out what's the most pressing items, and we'll figure out a way to get to those. All right, cool. Anyone else want to chime in?
I mean, the reason why I wanted to get involved with this program in particular is because I just bought my first property. Hold on, baby girl, I see you. I just bought my first property as a triplex in North Philly, and I'm really interested. I'm not really interested. I wouldn't say I'm interested, but clearly I'm getting involved in a real estate game now. And, I just want to learn as much as I possibly can. You know what I'm saying? Like yourself, I did a ton of research for a year. It took me about a year before I acquired my first property. A lot of failure, a lot of dealing with big investors. You know how it is in this game, especially in Philly right now, in North Philly. When you're trying to get a property, there's a lot of investors with big dollars, and I was approaching it with a 2 or 3K loan. When somebody's stepping in with cash, cash is king. So I just wanted to jump in and kind of, I guess, further my knowledge, you know what I'm saying, and also gain connections if I could.
Yeah, and both of you guys basically indicated that you want to learn more. I think I'm gonna make sure there's an opportunity for you guys to reach out to me outside of this. Like I said, I'm big on making myself available, when time permits, but just to do my best to kind of help you guys out and dig into this, space a little more. So we're gonna figure out a way to get my contact over to you guys. So, but thanks for that. Anyone else?
Yeah. So basically, the reason why I attended this workshop, wanted to attend this workshop, because y'all definitely did want to get more knowledge into, about real estate. And also, one of the things I also wanted to do, own a few rental properties as well. And yes, and also generational wealth while working like my other job, which is like case management. So yeah.
Gotcha. Perfect. Good to hear. You guys are on some similar paths here, but also I see the differences as well, but that's good. All right. So go ahead. Feel free.
Really quick. Now I'm definitely here because of real estate, just to hear all the good information that you will bring to us in all of these series. So appreciate that. Another thing is, I wanted, and I'm pretty sure you're probably going to speak to, hopefully, like buying and starting younger.
Yes.
Because I really, really wish I would have started. I wanted to start in my 20s, right? But then life comes and certain things come and kids and marriage and
Yeah,
everything else. So it kind of got pushed back, but I've always loved real estate. I've always seen that Philly and North Philly is going to be one of the premier places because of the proximity to Center City and everywhere else in the city.
makes
So now you
sense.
got a lot of white people moving back in the inner city cheaply and moving kind of black people out. So I always wanted to invest in the city, where it's much more opportunity for us.
Gotcha.
So I'll be looking to hear about that.
Yeah, and I'm going to dig into that piece about young. I think that's something I'm going to touch on the next slide. And I'm going to transition on to that actually. So you brought up some great points that move into the next topic. So like what real estate means to me. So I think that, yeah, I provide that introduction about myself, but in order for you to like see how I feel about this or where the passion comes from, you got to kind of understand someone's background a little bit. The reason I want to touch on some of these things, because it might be some triggers in here that prompt someone like, oh, maybe I should look into it a little further. So that first bullet there is early life lessons. I'm saying like my family, like we didn't have much in terms of assets coming up and things like that. But I recall my mom was the first of my grandmother's like 9 or 10 children, if I'm correct, to purchase her own home. And she moved me and my brother in there. And one thing I noticed about that property was it was our home, like, you know, that was ours. As long as my mom did what she needed to do on her end, pay the bills and everything like that, it was ours. And it taught me the importance of ownership there early. But more importantly, it's like now you have a home, you can do with it as you please. So there were times when family would rotate into the property because they didn't have places to stay. So now I saw that this was a place that provided us a home, but also in others in their time of need. So I saw how important just one property was. The next piece is ownership, right? There's nothing like owning something, plain and simple. When you own it, it's yours. You can leverage it however you need to. And it's also a wealth building piece as well. There's just a great pride and great value that comes with ownership. Another thing is on here is job creation. Because of the projects that I do, I have the opportunity to hire others. And I'm primarily work with Black and brown people for my jobs. And I see that, you know, not only am I creating wealth for myself in the process of updating these properties, but I'm also helping other people with their livelihood by employing them. And another piece on there is just improving the community. As you go throughout Philly, you'll see that there are abandoned properties, there's ran down properties, they're not in the best condition. But I feel that it's very important that we go back and figure out a way to add value to it. And this is one of those ways. Service is one, but this is another one. And not only do you benefit the community, but you also build wealth for yourself as well. So and on this slide here, another thing I want to talk about was back to that early life lessons thing. I started because I saw how impactful real estate was. I think I purchased my first property when I was like 24. So I'm 31 now, going on 32. So it's been some time since I did it. The reason I did it because, just like I said, seeing my mom, how it impacted our family. But when I got around to doing it, I purchased my first property as a duplex. And I saw that there was even more value I can get out of that in terms of generating income. It was a great section of the city that it was in. I saw that I can leverage it so many different ways later on. If I had a family and I needed cash from it, I could either sell it or leverage it for equity, pull equity out of the property.
Question for
Sorry, somebody said something?
Yeah, I got a question for you.
Sure.
And not that you have to get into the specifics of numbers, but would you say you got the duplex and were able to see how much more you could do as far as generating income? Like how does that work when you have a multifamily or a duplex as
Cool.
far as how does that work?
Gotcha. So before I get into that, that's a really good point. But the key point is I started early, started investing early, and I'm reaping the benefits of that today. So back to Pat's point, and let me know if I miss anything, but I purchased that property at 185 at the time. And when I moved in there, the tenant was paying $950 rent, and my mortgage was about $1,300 or so. So I basically treated myself as if I was a tenant to contribute $950 as well. So now we're talking $1,900 being generated from the property. What do? I paid a mortgage. I put funds to the side for any incidentals or any repairs that's needed. And I also build a cash reserve with it as well. So it's like having multiple accounts and just breaking that money up. I use Capital One as one of the banks, and it's so easy to create an account once you already have one. And then I just allocate that money into certain categories. So when a repair came up, I wasn't concerned because I had this reserve of cash available for it. When I was ready to purchase my next home or invest, I pull from that reserve and utilize that. So that was a way that I was able to use that property and benefit myself. So it was purchased at 185 and today is valued 70 plus. And the interesting thing about that property was it's still operating, doing well today. I have some great tenants in there. There's no concerns on my end. And I even use some of the funds from that property to purchase my current project that I'm working on. Pat, you got another question?
No. I got excited. Like I don't know this stuff, but just hearing those numbers, I'm like, damn, this dope as hell. So I
Yeah.
just getting excited.
So the value is there, and it's climbing up even more. Because I know a gentleman that owns about like 30 properties in that area. He's been selling them one by one because he's in retirement. He has no kids. He's just gonna live it up. So yeah, I try to break a deal with him for about 3 properties, but shoot your shot when you see opportunity, but they were not priced appropriately. So just because something may look good doesn't mean it is good for you.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that because I've always heard the term like never you don't buy like the nice houses, but always buy like the rundown houses and stuff, and then fix it up, and then you kind of generate more.
Yeah, and the perspective will vary depending on where you are and what you want to do. So if I was in a position right now where I was trying to buy my first home and they were 270 in the area, I would be interested. But my mindset has shifted to where I'm an investor now, so I need my numbers to look a certain way to be more beneficial to me. So I'm gonna move on to the next one. Statistics. So I pulled this from one of, I think it's MSNBC, CNBC or something like that, if I'm correct. And it basically talked about like how African Americans have a lower percentage of home ownership, and we even see other brown individuals having a lower percentage of home ownership when it comes to our racial counterparts, right? I mean, there's the whole historical piece behind that, by why we are behind the curve and whatever it may be. But this is not that type of topic we're going to dig into, but I want to put the facts in front of you guys to let you know how the statistics stack up against us. So I'm gonna just read it really quick. Black Americans will have the lowest rate of home ownership compared to other racial groups, with white Americans having a home ownership rate of 76%. Hispanic Americans having an ownership rate of 51.4%, and Asian and Native, Hawaiian, and Pacific Islanders having a home ownership rate of 61.4%. And if I recall correctly, I think it was somewhere like in the 40% where we fell. But just wanted to show you guys that right quick, but see statistics thrown at us all the time. Me personally, I don't care because I've overcome them. Other people have the ability to overcome them. And we can play a role ourselves by helping people overcome it. And me doing this is one thing. Me constantly sharing knowledge and helping others is a way. You guys can do the same, because after this, you'll be equipped, or you're already equipped at this time, to where you can help other people. So how do we improve the statistics? The mindset is the first thing that you have to change. When you change your mindset, you literally can overcome anything. Like, it's just all about putting goals in place, setting yourself up to execute. I know we all have hardships, but it's about how do we separate ourselves from the hardships or overcome them. So the mindset is the most important thing. And the first step is, that's the first piece. And another crucial piece is understanding your goals and your budget. So this will be the main focus of our presentation today. So I'm gonna shift on right quick. All right, so taking action, the mindset, right? You have to want it. So you guys being here is an indication that you want to learn more, you want to grow in this space. And from this, you will take whatever it is and act accordingly, right? From tips I may have, from additional research you may have, but just keep that in mind. You have to want it. If you want it, you can achieve it. Another thing is set smart goals. We're going to dig into the smart goals a little bit later. You guys probably seen this before, but I think it's a nice touch point to kind of lock you in a little bit. Your goals have to be specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and have a time frame on them. We're going to touch on each of those bullets a little better later, but I just wanted to bring that up, right? So, and then the last thing here is what will keep you focused on your goal. We have so many distractions, right? They're good distractions and they're bad distractions. Like a good distraction for me is like, would I like to lock in and focus on real estate all day? No, but a few of my lovely distractions include my family. They pull me away because I want to put time and attention into that, right? Because that's something else I love, right? It's something I got to divide my time in, community service when I can, helping family and friends. Whatever it may be. Those are the good ones. Some of the bad ones could be scrolling on online all day, like on your social medias, right? That could pull you away. Indulging in something that's not really beneficial to you at all. You know, the list goes on and on. But you got to ask yourself, what will keep you focused throughout this time, right? For me, how I stay focused, I'm a visual learner. I'm a visual individual. I have to constantly see it in order for it to be like, yo, that is so obtainable, or it's just my perfect reminder for things. So what you see here is a whiteboard that's in front of my desk. It's over my desk right now. And that's not even the full whiteboard. That's just part of it. And the reason I cut off the other part just to fit on the slide. But then I even like put pieces of paper to the left of it. There are things that I want to see. So I got like a Bible verse up here that helps me stay focused. I even got my own quote that I have for myself, because sometimes we can get in our own way. I'm gonna read that to you guys right now. Stop doubting yourself. Your track record has demonstrated your ability to resolve anything you're passionate about. You got this. And that's my own motivational piece to myself. And I also have a Bible verse, like I said, and then I got all these things that I kind of want to keep in mind and execute on. It's nothing but like positivity and like task list related items up there. Not only have I done this in like the past year by putting this whiteboard up there, but I've always done it when it came to like accomplishing goals. I would have like a flashcard. What are those 3x5, whatever they are, those little cards to get flashcards you would study with. I had some of those in my wallet. I had stuff on my dashboard in my car, like wherever it was, put it on the mirror, whatever it may be. I constantly saw the goals and I executed on them, right? So with that being said, my question for you is, you can volunteer now if you have something in mind, but I do want you guys to reflect on this. What actions will you take to stay focused? So if anyone wants to chime in and share a tip, mine's is seeing is believing. Maybe you guys got something that someone else in this group can benefit from.
Khaled, what I do every morning, and I try not to miss it, is I always talk to myself, wake up, thank God. Then I always talk to myself. Um, I tell myself, you know, what I'm going to do, not what I'm trying to do, what I'm thinking about doing, but what I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Every morning, I lay it out of what I'm going to do, where I want to go in life, and I just repeat it every day, and it kind of helps me stick to my goals, along with a lot of the things that you do, writing things down, to-do lists, steps to get to the end goal. So it takes a lot, but it helps you get a routine. And it
Yep.
helps you repeat that routine, and you're repeating positive things to yourself, and it'll help your mindset, and it'll help you go further.
Yep. I agree. Anyone else got any tips they can share that other people might benefit from?
For me,
Got you.
my fault.
All right.
Just real quick, something that I try to do to stay focused is surrounding myself with the people who are doing the thing that I want to do. So like you are one of those examples of like, we already know what our stuff is, but it's like, you help. I didn't get into real estate. I got into real estate because of you. Like we had a conversation years ago where you told me like things I had to do, and I'm like, all right, bet I'm gonna start doing it. But I was able to stay accountable just because you were somebody that were around it. Other people around it helped me stay accountable, and like we're constant reminders of what I wanted to do. So the company you keep.
Yep, that's a good point. The energy, the company, the people you keep around you make the difference big time. Anyone else? Okay, we're going to keep digging on now. Now, whatever it is for yourself, please just execute on it. And this is all a part of our mindset here, right?
My fault, Kylie, real quick. And then if y'all are in a position where you're not able to use your audio, but if you use your chat, if you want to respond, definitely send us a message in the chat and we'll respond that way if you're not able to talk out loud.
So the next few things I'm going to tell you guys, this is not rocket science, but sometimes we have to get reminders in order to execute things. What I'm going to tell you guys, you most likely already know, but the question is, are you executing on it? That's the most important thing. So tracking cost exercise. Now, this is not something we're going to do here, but this is something you should highly consider doing on your own time, right? This all plays into the budget piece, right? The mindset was the first thing we talked about, but now it's the budget. And this is a part of like the other part of taking action. You're not going to be able to purchase a property unless you get your finances in order, save up the money, and also your credit score, right? Credit score is on the next topic we'll talk about, but today we're going to talk about tracking your costs. So something that I will recommend to you guys is print a bank statement, or you can have it on your computer screen, however you want to do it, right? Go through each line item in that bank statement and ask yourself, is it a savings? Like, is it savings? Like, did I save some of that money? Was this particular line item related to something that I need? Like, you got to pay for your utilities. That's a part of your need. You got to pay for your rent or your mortgage. That's a part of your need. Clothing when you need it, so on, food. And then I also want you to look and write down your wants next to it, right? And then ask yourself, is this necessary? Is it a necessary cost? Something I always talk about is like, sometimes we have too many streaming services. I got Hulu, I got Netflix, I got HBO, Showtime, so on and so on. It's like, ask yourself, are you really watching that much TV? Number one. And number two, should you be watching that much TV? Also, what, are you keeping one streaming service for one show? Like, it's just, think about those type of things. Like, where can you kind of save from your costs, and look at all the other wants as well, and kind of assess, do I really need to be spending my funds on that particular item right now? Will it allow me to achieve the goal that I have in mind, right? So take the time to do that. And then going forward, what I want you guys to do, whether it's something you do manually, like I do stuff in Excel spreadsheets still, I'm a little old school with it, but or you use like some sort of budgeting app, do something that's going to kind of help you track and monitor the money that's coming into your account and the money that's going out. When you get a better feel of the flow of your money, then it positions you to do a better job of tracking that expense and then setting goals and reaching it little by little. I'm not going to sit here and tell you guys like, oh, 50, 30, 20 rule, you need to save this much, that much. I don't know your respective scenarios, like your lifestyle and what that may cause for you to act in a certain way, right? Only you know that, but you got to ask yourself, can I stretch and do better in this savings category? Can I stretch and do better in this investing category? Whatever it may be, I need you to think about that. So before I go on, do anybody got any questions about this one? Slide here. All right, cool. We'll move to the next one. So now, right, we got to think about our costs, what we're spending our money on. But something that's very important is the money that you bring in, the income, right? You're not going to be able to accomplish the goals without creating or generating some income, right? So you may have a business, right? That's one source of income. You may have your own job or your employer where you work, whatever hours a week to do so. And another thing is, don't be afraid to either start a side hustle or like create a different idea, leverage some of these ideas I have out here, research different ones you can do. But there's so many ways to make money in this current day and age. It's ridiculous. And it's all because of connectivity, like through these devices that we use. You could tutor online. You guys are bright. I mean, you're in college right now, so you got some type of knowledge where you could probably leverage and use. Like it could be a grade school kid or whatever it may be. Right? There's different online applications you can sign up for tutoring. You can take surveys. You can be a virtual assistant. You can deliver for companies like Black and Mobile, grocery stores, Amazon. The list goes on and on. If you haven't heard of Black and Mobile, it's basically like you think of your Uber Eats, but they solely focus on Black and brown businesses, and they deliver for those businesses. And from what I recall, their pay is a little better, and some other benefits that go along. So just wanted to point that out for you guys. You can run errands for somebody. There's an app called TaskRabbit. You can rent your car. There's an app called Toro or something like that, if I recall correctly. You can sell items online. There are people who literally go and buy things from dollar stores and put them up online for a markup. So the list goes on and on. There's so many different ways you can generate income, right? So I want to ask you guys, do anyone have an idea that's not presented here that they can share with the group, or even open to sharing some type of business that you may have going on right now that generates income for you?
Uh, I just recently started getting into photography. So I thought about, like I'm waiting for my camera to come in and then so that I can start a photography business. Also, like
Nice.
I think like, and also in about a year, like I think like, yeah, I give myself about a year from now, I start selling like, hoodies. So start selling like merchandise and stuff like that.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's what's up. Anyone else got something that they're doing now or goal for them to create some income?
In the past, like in the summer, I used to teach kids how to swim because I was a lifeguard. So I was like, I would go to the pools on my free time where I wasn't working, and I would like teach kids how to swim for like 20, 25 an hour, and then I would do deals if they have like brothers and sisters or siblings or whatever, and I would do it that way. And then I think the following year, I did it where I'll find the clients, and then other lifeguards would get money. I'll pay them for like kind of teaching some of my clients when I wasn't available, and that's why I kind of got into the groove of doing that. And then right now I'm working on doing scholarships for graduate school students because I was able to win like I applied for like 100 scholarships over the summer. And so I made a system where it's like you plug in, get it done, and so forth. So like I'm teaching classes on that as well. And
Nice. There we go. See, that you put that brain in motion. You created ideas for yourself and executing on them. Anybody else got anything that they probably would recommend or would like to share? All right, cool. We're gonna move on. So I'm going to give you guys a few minutes on this one. So we talked about like how you're going to change your mind, like how you're going to basically shift your mindset or put it in a certain space to where you start executing on your goals or allowing you to stay focused in some way, shape, or form, right? And we also talked a little bit about budgeting, right? So what I want you guys to do is I want you to create 2 SMART goals, right now. Give you some time to do it. So one SMART goal is focusing on your mindset. What do you have to do in order for you to stay focused? Like myself, I told you guys I write things down. I got calendar reminders on my phone, whatever it may be. And also I put myself around people that are doing the same thing as myself. So those are the things that help me stay focused on my goals as an investor, right? You got to ask yourself what's going to help you stay focused from the standpoint of purchasing your first home or just in general of executing all your goals, right? That's one thing. Another thing is I want you to think about is, so we talk about the focus piece. The other piece should be whether you, like if you want to purchase your own property, what's going to help you, like what goals should you kind of execute on or set for yourself now, right? So now when we talk about the goals, I want to touch on a few bullets that I had earlier, right? SMART goals, specific, right? What I have here is an actual goal that I have for myself, right? Add more units to my rental portfolio. That's, but I'm speaking from the standpoint of as an investor, but I want you guys to work from the standpoint of you staying focused and purchasing your first home. So back to my point, specific, right? Add more units to my rental portfolio, right? Straightforward. It don't got to be super complex or anything. What is that goal, right? The measurable piece is I'm quantifying it in some type of way, right? I want to add 8 units to my portfolio this year, right? So I got that number there. It's 8 units, whatever it may be measurable for you. If something for you to stay, like maybe, for example, if your goal is to, like whatever your focus goal may be, right? Your focus SMART goal, you may say to yourself, okay, yeah, I'm going to write things down, but 3 times a day, I'm going to revisit that goal. I'm going to look at it, remind myself of it, right? That's your measurable piece. Achievable, right? What do I have to do in order to make this actionable, right? Like for me to make this happen. Me, what I'm in the process of doing now is selling one property. We finance my existing project, which I'm updating at this time to increase my capital. I'll be able to leverage the cash from that. And I'm going to use the capital and a new loan that I'm going to get to purchase more properties in order for me to get to that 8 units, right? That's my achievable piece there. I'm saying, how am I going to execute on it, right? And then the relevant piece of why am I doing, like, why am I trying to achieve this goal, right? Why is it relevant to me? I'm an investor. I'm passionate about this. This is what I want to do. That's why, right? Don't set a goal for yourself if you don't have nothing that's pushing you behind that, right? Can't say I want to be an astronaut because it looks cool on TV. No, like you got to go in like deep into that subject matter to learn about that, create timelines for yourself. So the relevancy piece is like, why does it matter to you, right? But most importantly, like this is all wealth building for my family. And as for the timeline, I got 3/31/2022, right? That's about like a year, a little over a year from now. So I want you guys to take a few minutes, really dig into this and think about it. And if anyone is open to share after this, feel free. If not, no worries, but take a few minutes.
Anytime I think back to I just hear you keep talking about goals, and I just keep going back to the conversation me and you had. I think it might have been outside of you had right after you recently got the duplex, and this was when I was still in school and I wasn't making like any money for real, like effed up. But to see you planted that seed in my mind, and I just started saving whatever I could, whether it was like $20, $50, like over the course of years, and then to see where we're at now with having multiple properties and like looking to do more. It's just crazy to see how goals became reality over.
Yeah. And you were young, and some people think, oh, like I'm too young to set these type of goals. No, like you'd be surprised what you can accomplish. I know guys that are younger than me, further along in this, because they started early. And it doesn't, like, I don't hold age against nobody. It's just like, yo, did you take the time to learn? You have the experience. Are you executing? That's all that matters to me, man. Age is nothing but a number. Like, seriously. We got like 3 more minutes at 1. If anyone's interested in sharing, we'll go. But keep thinking about that, guys.
I don't know.
So I see we got a newcomer that just came into the group. Just to fill you in, we're doing a quick exercise where we are just creating SMART goals that touch on the topics earlier. One is what you're going to do to stay focused. The other one is what's your goal for you to either acquire that first property that you have in mind or acquire the next one.
Appreciate that, brother. I was on another Zoom meeting and I didn't have the proper link. Sorry for my tardiness, but I'll try to keep up with where everybody else is.
No worries. We're recording this, so you can dig right back into it a little later. So no matter what.
Yeah, I'm gonna post the recording to our YouTube page shortly after we wrap up today, so you'll be able to go back and review what we discussed so far.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Patrick. But
Yeah.
I'm ready to answer that question whenever this brother Khalid is ready.
What
Okay.
question are you looking to answer? We asked the question.
One of the things that I want to do to stay focused and start pushing towards my goal to buy property is I want to cut my household spending and increase my household finances, whether it's by taking on a second job or expanding my own small business. But I want to cut my household expenses so that I will have more finances towards buying a property.
Thank you for that. All right, so guys, it's 1 o'clock. It's Andre. He started us off. He shared his goals. If anyone else is interested, feel free. If you don't want to, that's completely fine. Some people like to keep the goals to themselves and just execute and then just, come out on top. So if anyone wants to volunteer, feel free to.
Yeah, I could volunteer a goal that I just wrote down. SMART goal. It's adding another property to my portfolio. And once you broke it down into specifics, again, it was acquiring my second property. Anywhere between 1 to 3 units, I'll be fine with that. In order to do that, I was looking to do a HELOC on my current property once that's finished, like once I'm finished renovating that. The relevance is just to help achieve generational wealth, because I understand how important it is. Home ownership is in achieving generational wealth, or real estate, being involved in real estate. And I gave myself the deadline of October 2021.
Okay, nice. One thing you said there was HELOC. Do you want to share what that is, or I can dig into it really quick?
I mean, I'll let you get busy. I mean, I can touch on it briefly as a home equity line of credit.
Yeah.
And the reason why, for me, I would prefer to do the HELOC as opposed to total refinance is because I may not have to use all of the funds, from the HELOC, and still had a little bit of that credit available if I needed to tap back into it.
Yeah. And so you touched on some really good points there, and I'm gonna chime in and add some more. It's just like you said, a HELOC is home equity line of credit. It's your ability to leverage your property, and you can pull funds from it. And when you borrow those funds, it's at it's probably like the cheapest rate that you probably can find out there. So say, for example, I own a home outright for $100,000. It's completely paid off. If I get a home equity line of credit, my lender will let me borrow up to a certain percentage. So say, for example, they say, oh, you can borrow up to 75%. that means I can borrow up to $75,000 against my home and use it as I see fit, right? You want to be smart with that, obviously. And another thing to keep in mind is you want to pay it back as well. So you want to leverage it appropriately. You want to pay it back. And I think that's very important to keep in mind, because you don't want to keep piling up debt without having a plan to execute upon. Like Ed said there, he wants to buy another property. He's going to take his existing property and help him to buy more assets. So that's a great way of going about it. So I just want to dig into that little term that he brought up there. Anyone else want to share? And good stuff. Good. Thanks everyone so far for volunteering. So I appreciate it.
I could
Anyone
go.
else? Sure.
My specific goal is to invest into my Roth IRA.
Mm-hmm.
I'll make that measurable by allocating 10% of my, my income each month. Achievable. I don't really have much expenses besides like helping my mom out here and there, and transportation stuff. So like I could just kind of cut on like traveling, stuff like that, or not going out as much. So I think that can probably be how I can try to achieve it.
Okay.
Relevance is relevant because investing early is always a smart move.
I agree.
And then my timeline is at least have 1,000 or 2,000 by next fall of CCP.
Nice. Great goals. Great goals. Anyone else before we move on? All right. So we talked about everything we talked about today, for the most part, is related to, it's from the perspective of an individual who may want to buy their first home, right? There's tidbits on the investing piece here and there, but I kind of want to dig into it from my perspective. Some of this is a repeat, but just to show the shift and like the mindset, right? So for me, the mindset, right, what's going to help me stay focused on my goal, my whiteboard, how I use Instagram and Facebook to my advantage to grow my portfolio. On Instagram, I follow contractors, I follow real estate investors, I follow, realtors. The list goes on and on. It's like solely focused for real estate. Facebook, I'm in Facebook groups right now where people are literally selling properties, where they're wholesalers. I don't know if you guys heard of this term before, but it's literally just an individual who is like a middleman between two parties to sell a property. So say, for example, I'm a wholesaler and Pat owns a home. I go to Pat and I say, hey, Pat, would you be interested in selling your home? If Pat says yes, what I would then do is get that home under contract, right? Get that home under contract that says I have the ability to get that home if I meet certain terms, right? Which is provide Pat his funds. A wholesaler would then, who would be me, then take it and then sell it to Owl, right? So I would go to Owl and I'd be like, Owl, I got this home, right? I'm selling it for $50,000, even though Pat may want to sell it for 30, right? I'll say, oh, I have this home for $50,000, and I'll might be like, no, I'm into, like my budget says I should only spend about like 40 for it based on what I want to do with the property. It's up to me to agree or disagree. So if I agree, what happens is now I sell that home to Al, I make 10, and Pat is his 30. So those individuals are called wholesalers, right? They're marketing properties inside of these groups. So that's why I'm there, because that's another way for me to find properties, right? Why is this a part of the mindset? Because I'm still locked in. I'm only using that space or part of that space to reach my goals. Another thing is the goal I have in mind, right? 8 units, right? I already talked about that SMART goal earlier. So that's my perspective from my mindset perspective as an investor. The other thing is the budgeting piece, right? I'm going to leverage the BRRRR strategy, right? And that is basically buy a property. I have already bought the property. It looks like I'm missing an R there, right? So buy the property. The next R is renovating, right? So that should be like somewhere in the middle right here, right? So I'm in the process of renovating the property now. Then after it's all fixed up, I'm then going to rent it, right? Rent it out to tenants, start generating income from it, right? And then that puts me in a position to refinance the property, because I took a property from step A when it wasn't in the best condition possible, updated it, rented it out, is now generating income, and then I'm going to refinance it. I'm going to go back to the bank and say, hey, you know, I fixed up this property. I have tenants in place. It's generating income. The value of what I bought it for before is a lot greater than it is, a lot greater today. So I want to come to you and get a mortgage and essentially use some of that funds within that property value, right? And they're going to say, okay, we're going to go and have someone go out to your property, assess the value. They'll see it, they'll check it out, did a great job. Then we have a whole new mortgage that I create with them. And from that, I pay back all my old lenders in relations to that property. And now this bank becomes the party that I pay the mortgage to. But within that, I also take a piece of that equity that I build up and I use that as capital for myself. And then last but not least, repeat. I'm just repeating the process, right? And then the other piece there for the budgeting piece is sell one property that I have in my portfolio now. Because what I want to do is sell that property in order to do larger deals like the ones I'm doing now. Those two are my budgeting component, because they're going to give me the capital I need to make that next move. So keep in mind, like I even got the little disclaimer right there. The purpose of these slides is just to plant the seed of how I look at things as a real estate investor. And it's separate from the ideas we talked about earlier, but I'm trying to give you guys a 2-for-1 in the presentation. Mostly focus on buying your first home or even buying your next home. And then there's going to be that tidbit from time to time where I talk about investing. Now, I got a little heavy right there with the wording with the buy, refinance, buy, repair, rent, refinance, repeat process, right? Some of you guys probably heard that before, but I'm curious if any of you guys have questions about that.
I do. I have a question, Khalid.
Sure.
So I'm in a kind of a situation where I'm acquiring a home, definitely needs repair, but I was going back and forth between bank, using a bank for the loan, or just using a lender who lends funds. So I have a buddy I graduated with who is now the bank, who works for a company where he lends money.
Sounds like a hard money lender. Is that what he is?
Yes. Well, yes,
okay.
For construction loans. So I met with him like a couple of weeks ago. So we went over numbers, and it's kind of an easier process than a bank.
It is.
Because of all the paperwork and all the qualifications. So what would you go with? Would you go with that easier process of just a like a hard money lender, or would you go with the bank?
In your instance, so give me 1 second. In your instance here, let me ask you this though. What is your goal? To basically like find a property to fix it up.
Yes, find it out.
So,
and
you currently
rent it out and just hold on to it.
You currently have your own property now, like that you and your family live in and everything, right?
Yes, and this is a separate property.
Okay.
It's an old house I used to live in. It's my grandparents' house from forever ago, but my dad lives in it, and we're moving him out.
So I'm gonna tell you from my experience, it depends on the property that you're going to get. Since you're talking about fixing up the property, hard money, like whatever decision you make is solely up to you and based on your research. But I'm gonna tell you based on my experience, I've used hard money lenders. The reason being because these properties, when they're available from wholesalers, from the individual selling them or whatever it may be, it's ideal for you to close on that property in as short of a time as possible. Hard money lender positions you to do that because there's less red tape. You're going to get your regular mortgage. It's like a 30, 45-day process in order for you to actually get that that property. With a hard money lender, some of those guys can make it happen in a week or two.
Mm-hmm.
And it's ideal because what you do is you purchase the property at what the individual is selling it for. And over time, they release funds to you so that you can make the renovations as you go along.
Mm-hmm.
So, boom, you got the property, right? You got to put some skin in the game. They probably require you to put some money down for closing.
Mm-hmm.
You also have to foot the first draw. A draw is when the hard money lender gives you the funds to make the repairs, but you're going to have to front the first one. So what you may do is you may get your demo done. You get your demo done, then next thing you know, you'll get the roof done as well. And that might be your first draw. You go to your hard money lender and say, hey, I've accomplished these tasks so far. They will come in, check it out. And from there, they will then release that first draw to you. Okay, you brought the money in, here you go. Now, what you're going to do with that draw that you just received, you start moving on to the next phases of that construction. So you start to get the framing done. And then you're going to get your HVAC and your plumbing work done. And then same thing over and over until you get to that finish line. But it's ideal because of how that process works for you to have hard money lending, but still do your research, figure out what's right for you.
Definitely. Appreciate that.
Can I jump in too? Because
Feel free.
I know that if you're trying to renovate a property, you can also do a 2 or 3K loan to renovate as well. And I know is a better interest rate for you. You know, you'd be able to save a couple more bucks. You know what I'm saying? Like if you was looking to renovate, I think it's probably a bit of a safer bet for someone that's new. A 2 or 3K loan, and it's two types. You can do a full 2 or 3K, and you can also do a streamlined 2 or 3K. That's any repairs under what's that, 30,000 or 35,000?
That sounds correct. That threshold, yeah. Okay, so
thank you for that, Ed.
And Ed, that's a nice ad that you added there. So, and think about this and if I'm correct, now this may be something I'm missing. To my knowledge, is FHA 2 or 3K. There's no conventional 2 or 3K, is there?
Yep, is a FHA, yes sir.
All right. So the thing about FHA is it's red tape. It takes longer, that 30 to 45-day period, right? It can work. There's definitely opportunities out there for you to leverage that loan product to make it happen. But things you got to keep in mind with an FHA, in most cases, you cannot have an existing loan that's FHA. Now, if you do get a second FHA, there's certain parameters that you have to meet, right? Like something, I think, don't quote me directly on this, but maybe your family scenario, you want to upgrade, get a bigger house or whatever it may be. I think in those instances, you can have your FHA property that you're in now, and then get another one and use that 2 or 3, either streamline or 2 or 3K full product, right? So you got to keep that in mind. That's another barrier, because now it's like, hey, I got this FHA product. It's going to take me some time to close. But remember, even though it creates that extra red tape, it does not mean that it cannot be executed and done. So, but thank you for that. That's good stuff. Anyone else got questions?
Yes, I have a question. I'm interested in purchasing a multi-use property, excuse me, where I would live on the property, but I would have like a rental space, like a storefront.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to know, do you have any information as how that will work for me as a veteran and securing a loan like that? Because if I'm not able to find a mixed use property where it's residential and commercial, you know, I could live there and do business in it or rent it out, then I could buy 2 properties at the same time, where again, I would live in one property or one space and then rent out the other or use it for my own offices.
Gotcha. Now I'm going to provide you some input based on the knowledge I have. I'm not a loan officer, but from what I've learned in the past, that commercial mixed use property, you can leverage a loan from your lender to purchase the same property. If you know, the fact that you're going to be occupying that property helps in positioning you to get better financing option. But if you were to just outright just buy it and not occupy it, you know, the rates may be a little bit higher, but that option still exists. The fact that you're a veteran, you have benefits that we don't have access to. Like there are certain banks that provide certain products there that could benefit you even more in such instance. So
Yeah, they don't
it's
have to.
possible.
They don't have to. If you're a veteran, you don't have to pay a down payment for a FHA loan. So.
So
Okay. Well, I know that I'm 100% service connected, so I know I have to pay 0 property taxes. So that's a big plus for me. But
yeah,
one of the things that I want to start is that if I've taken a real estate course here at CCP, and I plan to get licensed by this summer. So I want to be in a position where if they can have loans go through me, provide loans that might otherwise only be available to veterans. I want to provide the financing to other Black people in my community because, for me being a vet, part of that was what I did was to bring it back to the community. So some of the things that other brothers in the community that may not have served in the military don't have access to, I want to provide those kind of services through lending and et cetera for them as well.
gotcha. And I think that's a great idea what you have there. Just make sure you understand the loan terms before you just say to yourself, well, I'm going to take funds and leverage it to give it to other people for their needs. That's fine, but just make sure you're using the right product for it. That's the only instance in which it'll be fine. So,
Hey,
yeah,
Khalid, I got a quick question for you.
gotcha.
Somebody was telling me about like when using hard money, right? They was telling me, I guess you would call it a hack, and I want to get your opinion on this. Whereas if you go through the process of becoming a GC, if you get a hard money loan, then you can kind of GC your own you can GC your own project and make I think like 10%. You pay yourself essentially to rehab your project. Can you touch on that?
Yeah, so you can definitely do that. So like I'm a GC myself. It's all about the numbers of the property, like what you purchase it for, right? You win, you really win on the purchase of your property, right? Because anything beyond that, you leverage your budget, but you got to get it at a good price, right? And then I manage it, and for myself, I can make the determination if I'm going to pay myself or if I am going to just put the funds into the property to get the job done. Essentially, I think is very important. It comes down to record keeping, how you track everything. You could pay yourself from that company's account just by writing a check, wire transfer, whatever it may be, but make sure you're documented appropriately. And how it would go is essentially that would be a 1099 from your company to yourself, and you would reflect it in your 1040 tax return. It's something you probably want to talk to your accountant or your EA about, whoever prepare your returns, and they'll be able to break that down for you more. But if you think about it, it's the whole piece of like the investment property, the equity within the investment property. You got your purchase, right? You got your budget that you use to fix it up. And then maybe you can pay yourself that last piece, and that'll be your GC fee right there. And that's all the equity that you're going to use for that property.
And then would you get it appraised
Yeah,
and then
you can get it
refinance?
appraised too. I mean, you can pay yourself on the front end, or you can pay yourself through the appraisal, however you see fit.
Thank you for that.
No problem. So we in the questions phase right now. We already got into it a bit. This is your opportunity to ask what you want to ask. I'm open book. I don't mind answering whatever it is you guys may have.
Here's one thing. So when you appraise, basically it goes off the comps in your area.
That is
So,
correct.
so for instance, I'm based north. I'll be North Philly based probably. While I'm working on properties, while I'm acquiring properties, I want to stay in North Philly right now. So the property, the properties are ran down on most blocks, on a lot of blocks.
Yeah.
But there's 2 homes that sold on, and I'll say my block just because I grew up there on my block. One was like they bought it for 25, and they sold it maybe 3 or 4 months later for 170. So on a just regular North Philly block. So would they use those comps?
Yeah. Comps, how comps work is there's a few different factors. And when you say comps, that's comparable properties. So you got to think to yourself, you got to think about distance. So you typically want to stay 0.25 miles radius of that particular property. Sometimes distance can get funny or there can be a little gray because, let me see here. Oh, let me admit Corey. Pat, you know how to admit somebody into the group? Notification just came up.
It should be good. It should be in.
Okay, so now back to comp. So with the gray area, the tricky part, we know that Philly is a block by block, feel that it has. You might be in one area and like homes are beautiful. 2 blocks later, it's not that great of a neighborhood or whatever it may be, right? So that's another thing you got to keep in mind when you think about proximity, right? The closer you are to that property, the better those comps help. Now, in some cases, you can go out to a mile or even a little larger radius, depending on the scenario at hand. But that's one thing we use. We use the radius of the properties that sold around your property, right? That's how you use it. Then it's also the amount. So the amount helps. Another thing that is important is the size of the property. A home that's 1,000 square foot is not going to be comparable in value to a home that's 2,000 square foot. That's more living space. Another thing you got to account for is your bedrooms and your bathrooms. Typically, you see like a 3-bedroom, 1-bath home setup in Philly. But if you do a 3 and a 1.5, or you do a 4 and a 1.5, or even a 4 and a 2, whatever it is, when you start adding that extra living space in those bathrooms, that helps with the value. But more importantly, you have to find homes that are mirroring that in some instance.
Definitely.
Another thing to take in mind with comps is you have your as-is comps, which means the property is as it is. You might have an abandoned property, or you might have a property that's outdated, don't have an updated kitchen, or whatever it may be. That's as is comps. Then there's something called the ARV comps, which is the after repair value. Now with the after repair value, goes into those homes. Those are your homes that have been rehabbed. Or you may have somebody who had the home already and made some updates. So they're like, I'm about to sell this home. Let me update the kitchen and the bath. Let me update some flooring, whatever it may be. So those are the 2 different categories you kind of look at things when you got a comment. So
I appreciate that.
Cool. Anyone else got questions? It's open floor right now. Probably can take like 2 more.
Yeah, I have one more question.
Sure.
I wanted to know, what are your thoughts on equity financing as opposed to debt financing? I mean,
Gotcha.
if you could secure it.
Gotcha. Equity financing is similar to debt financing in the sense, but with the equity financing, you have something you're leveraging. So we talked about this earlier with the home equity line of credit. That's like your equity financing. And what that is basically, I have this home, it has equity in it. I wanted to pull out that equity and turn it into cash and use it to to meet my goal, whatever it is I want to execute. That
Property
will be less. The rates are cheaper on those type of
on
loans.
equity. Yeah, on equity. But I mean, let's say not necessarily a home equity, HLOC is it called?
HELOC.
ELOC, excuse me. But let's say if you want to, for investment purposes, just strictly investment purposes, and you're looking to get financing for, what are your thoughts on equity financing as opposed to debt financing? I mean, I understand with debt financing, you're going to have to pay interest. You know that dirty word, interest. But
Same thing with equity
the
finance.
equity, you're going to have to give up a piece of like whatever your investment is. So
Yeah, you give up a piece. So it's just basically collateral. It doesn't mean that the bank owns that property. What you did was take out a note. Once you meet the obligations of that note, your property is free and clear of any liens. So, or potential liens. So that's all it is. If you pay it off, it's not going to hurt you.
Peace. I know you have to leave in 2 minutes. I just have a question that I've
Sure.
been ruminating over. So, my fiance and I are looking to purchase a home in like the next 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
We are looking to have one of the options is purchasing undeveloped land and building on that. That's a loaded question that you probably can't answer in a minute, but maybe like sometime we can link up afterwards when you have most free time.
Undeveloped land.
Yeah, so like purchasing just like
Yep.
acres of land, starting small, building small, but then, doing renovations as we,
That's a
spending
great
the most
idea. It's
money
another.
on the land rather than the house and then making the house better later.
Yeah, always do your due diligence. There may be some type of engineer or an individual that can come out to that land and assess
Got you.
what the land can be used for, if it's strong enough to meet your use. So say if you want to build homes on it, is
Mhm.
that soil sturdy for foundation to be built on it? Is it in a flood area? Is there any toxic waste that's in the area that is in that also, in that particular
Yeah,
land you have? You want to do your due diligence to make sure that your land can meet the needs that you have in mind.
those are great points. I appreciate you. Thank you.
No problem. All right, so that's that. We're gonna go to the last slide here. It's just talking about our next session, building and maintaining credit. Something I'm gonna keep you guys in mind. I feel like the last two sessions when we really dig into it a little bit more. But the cool thing about each of these sections, I'm gonna give you the opportunity to ask about like me from my experience and how I'm leveraging that information to dig into it more. But there'll be examples that you get to see in the third and the fourth session that brings these things to life a little bit more. So that's all on my end. Pat, I don't know if you want to close this out or anything like that.